Australia.
I'm Zach Lesage. I'm from Barrie, Ontario, Canada.
I've been playing Pokemon since 2012.
From 2017 to present.
And there it is!
Playing this tournament online has been quite different.
Pokemon's almost a little bit more difficult now. Sometimes you click things by accident.
And of course, just not having my friends there to share successes. The game is still the game.
Brent here has the energy and has the boss's orders.
Brent is someone that I have a friendship with in the game. I think Brent is a great opponent.
Zach Lesage has been competing at the highest level for quite some time. He's a very strong opponent, and I expect nothing less than a well-fought battle between us. We are playing a mirror match with quite similar deck lists, but the main difference is that I run big charms while he runs 2 copies of Mewtwo and Mew GX.
He plays extra supporter cards for consistency. I play other cards like Team Yell Grunt.
My strategy is to use a fast, powerful, and consistent lightning deck.
The Bolt Storm is doing enough damage to take the knockout here in the first.
Feels pretty unreal. I didn't expect to make it this far since I haven't been playing during most of the quarantine. However, I really started picking up my game around September and October, leading up to the regionals and global finals, and I'm just glad that the work paid off.
It's going to be a little bit of a difficult journey because with myself coming from the losers bracket and Brent coming from the winners bracket,
yeah, Zach's in complete control.
Winning to me would provide some sort of validation, and no matter what, I know that I tried my hardest.
Congratulations to Zach on winning a very well played.
What matters is that we're playing Pokemon together, and we found unique ways to play during the pandemic.
I'd like to wish my opponent good luck, and may the best player win.
Both of these players are extremely accomplished here in the Pokemon trading card game. Of course, both of these players for this finals, like we've said, are going to be playing that Pikachu and Zekrom GX deck, and very, very similar lists here, just a few differences between the two of them.
Yeah, well, the big difference is the inclusion of that other tag team Pokemon in Mewtwo and Mew GX from Zach's side. So we'll have to see if that's able to push Zach ahead a little bit in this mirror match, but having to cut some of those consistency cards like Energy Switch could come back to bite him.
Definitely could be the case. Of course, like I said, these players are both extremely accomplished. We see Brent here, multiple-time regional champion, and we've talked about it time and time again, has just been one of the most consistent players at international championships. Has a couple of top 8s here on the screen, but that does not also include a multitude of Day 2 finishes at internationals.
Yeah, pretty much if Brent showed up to an internationals, he pretty much got guaranteed Day 2. So it's great to see him here again, and also continuing the streak of Oceania in winner's side of grand finals for these Players' Cups.
And of course, Zach, speaking of Oceania, that's where Zach found one of his best finishes in the Pokemon trading card game, getting a finalist finish in the 2020 Oceania International Championship. Also, of course, winning a regional championship in 2019, winning a Mexico City special event, and then also top 8ing LAIC in 2018.
Yeah, and I believe we are ready to get down to the action. This is grand finals. One of these players will be crowned Players' Cup 2 champion. And will it be Brent from Oceania or Zach from North America?
I'm excited. Jeremy, can't wait to see how this is going to play out. Now, of course, this is grand finals and in a double elimination format. The player who is in the winner's side of the bracket actually only has to win the game one time. And, you know, since it is a double elimination format, if Brent takes the first loss of the tournament here, they will reset and play a full new set, a full new best of 3. And Zach is going first here in this game 1, and that is a pretty bad start. Does not even find an energy attachment for a turn. But speaking of bad starts, it doesn't look like Brent has much to work with either.
Yeah, both players kind of have the same hand, except Brent has energy and Zach has a Professor's Research and Marnie. So I think Zach might be able to come out here on top just because the supporters were allowing him to keep going.
Yeah, and I think whenever you see your opening hand, you feel like really bad whenever, you're in this finals. It's just not an ideal situation, but you see your opponent do pretty much the same thing on their turn, and you kind of breathe a sigh of relief. And Zach plays the Professor's Research here, not wanting to play a Marnie, kind of wants to leave Brent with a not so great hand, and that Research finds Zach exactly what he probably wants this turn. A quick ball can go get the Boltund V, and then we can see the Speed Lightning Energy to draw a couple of cards, and then we'll even get to see a potential Electrify this turn.
Yeah, already having access to the Air Balloon before the Professor's Research, it's just everything Zach could really want here.
Definitely ideal. With 2 quick balls in hand, Zach also has some options here. I wonder maybe if we'd see Zach ever go get the Pikachu and Zekrom and then just discard it with the second quick ball so that Zach can power up that Mewtwo and Mew and opt not to, attack with Pikachu and Zekrom at any point. Obviously, Mewtwo and Mew has more HP than Pikachu and Zekrom, and you don't have to worry about your opponent playing down a Mewtwo and Mew. Whereas we saw Zach kind of play around that in their games against Francesco early on in the tournament. Because this is open deck list, Zach is fully aware that Brent does not have his own copy of Mewtwo and Mew.
Yeah, the only difference is those big charms in Brent's list to kind of mitigate the extra HP that Mewtwo provides for Zach. But there we see the Boltund V finally hits the board, Speed Lightning Energy, drawing 2 kind of okay cards. 1 card you're definitely going to discard to the Quick Ball or Electromagnetic Radar. And having everything they need, just what attacker will Zach choose to power up with this Electrify?
Yeah, it does go ahead and bench the Mewtwo and Mew, so I feel like we'll probably see a couple of energies come down there. Also has the Air Balloon in play, can pretty safely put this in play knowing Brent's list, knowing that Brent doesn't have anything like Tool Scrapper to disrupt that tool attachment.
All right, well, there we see it. The Electrify on that Mewtwo and Mew, and Zach is now getting things going for his side of things. Meanwhile, Brent does not find what they need off the top of the deck, just another energy.
This is not a good start. I'm sure Brent did not complete the 2-0 run through the winner's side of the bracket with hands like this one. Definitely a bad go of things. Doesn't even really have that much of an option to boss's orders to stall anything. Is going to go ahead and bring up this Mewtwo and Mew, force Zach to find an energy to attack. But we know based on Zach's hand, that should be pretty easy to accomplish.
Yeah, having just access to pretty much anything in the deck to go along with this Professor's Research. And I think we'll see probably just getting the Pikachu and Zekrom to discard it with something like Electromagnetic Radar, or even just the Tapu Koko Prism Star to keep it in play for the next following turns. But Zach is sitting pretty here in the face of Brent's just nothing.
Yeah, Brent really just not having too much to work with. I wonder, is Zach maybe going to bench this second Mewtwo here, give that as an optional attacker? Yeah, it seems like that is going to be the case. And this is the first time I think we've seen Zach utilize both copies of the Mewtwo and Mew so far this tournament.
Yeah, well, there we see the energy is found along with a couple other of its friends. And 3 energy now means full blitz is an option. And now 2 Mewtwo and Mews are now charged up. It's looking pretty scary.
Yeah, definitely looking a little bleak for Brent here. Gonna need a really strong top deck. Also, I'd like to note that Zach did choose to hold off on playing the Crushing Hammer that he drew that turn, and I think I actually like this. You're not really too worried about Raichu and Raichu attacking. You're hitting into it for a bunch of damage here, and it's just nothing for Brent. And it looks like Brent is gonna go ahead and hover over that concede button, and that's Brent's actual first loss in games of this entire tournament.
Yeah, and what a way to take your first loss. That is so unfortunate to see for Brent there. There's so many outs in this Pikachu and Zekrom GX deck that allows you to just draw extra cards for your turn, and not finding any of those is just heartbreaking.
Yeah, but it'll happen like that sometimes, no matter how consistently you build your deck in the Pokemon trading card game. Inevitably, at some point, you're going to open up with some of these clunky cards that are just really good in the mid to late game, but don't assist your early game consistency. And we saw that happen there for Brent. Definitely unfortunate, but Brent is still in a great position here, of course, coming in as the winner of the winner's bracket, can still, fight back. There's a best of 3 here, and even if Brent does lose this best of 3, Zach would still have to defend defeat Brent in another best of 3 in order to win the whole tournament.
Well, let's see if Brent is able to get a better hand this game in game 2. Let's take it down to the action and see what goes on. Brent is going to need to draw some sort of Pokemon here.
Yeah, definitely looking for a much better start. I would imagine we'll see Brent choosing to actually go first here, and I think trying to just get off that first full blitz.
Much better hand here from Brent. Brent's side of things, having the same starter in Raichu and Alolan Raichu, but access to Quick Ball, Electromagnetic Radar, and the Dedenne GX already in hand.
Oh yeah, much better hand to work with here. And Zach actually starts that Vikavolt V, and honestly, not a great hand on Zach's side of things, it looks like. But we'll see what Brent wants to do here. Does he want to go aggressive, go ahead and play down this Dedenne and try to draw through the deck? Or maybe wants to save some of these resources like Energy Switch and Crushing Hammer. Looks like he's going aggressive.
Yeah, and you kind of are forced into this play just because of how game 1 went. You want to... Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
And here we go with game number 2 of this first set here of a potential 2. Brent is going to be choosing to go second since Brent, of course, lost that first game, gets to choose here. Wanting to get off that turn 1 Electrify, and oh man, kind of a rough hand here from Zach.
Yeah, thankfully still has a Quick Ball to try to get out of it, but a lot of resources that could possibly be discarded as soon as turn 1 here if he wants to try to even get some sort of a turn together and not fall to the wayside like Brent did that game 1.
Is going to get an additional mulligan to work with, and that is actually kind of a rough hand from Brent as well. Has to start that Eldegoss V. Does at least have a Crushing Hammer, but you probably won't even get to... I guess with the Electromagnetic Radar, you have some playability in the Dedenne GX, but you get rid of a couple of key resources, potentially like the boss's orders.
And no help off the top 2 from the mulligan or the draw for turn for Zach. Still has just the Quick Ball, and we could be eyeing down a big Dedenne GX.
Yeah, maybe just wants to play it a little slower here. It's unfortunate to not get an attachment for turn, and we see that 2 games in a row here for Zach, where Zach didn't attach an energy turn 1 last game either. But still, hanging on to a couple of Crushing Hammers seems pretty good to me, and you can always still potentially attack with some Energy Switch stuff on the next turn.
Yeah, that is also rough that having 2 of the Switch in hand means only 1's left in the deck. So really having to play the resource game here with how Zach's hand has turned out.
Yeah, checking the prizes here. We've seen Zach do this multiple times throughout the tournament. We've actually seen, basically all these players do it. It's definitely the right way to play things, to take it a little slow, and make sure that you are totally aware of what cards are in those 6 prizes.
All right, well, there's just a pass to the turn after the Bolton V gets switched into the active spot, and Brent's hand is looking much better minus the bad starter here.
Yeah, pretty solid, to be honest. We'll probably just see that Bolton V here come down, and as long as Brent can find a switch card and then get down either Raichu and Raichu or Pikachu and Zekrom tag team, we'll probably see that Electrify, accelerating a bunch of energies out of the deck, and Bolton V really just has been such a good card for these Pikachu Zekrom decks.
Yeah, just the great combination of energy acceleration and that heavy hitting power later on in the game, plus only attacking for 2 energy. I think it's one of the only options for the deck in that regard.
Certainly one of the most efficient attacking options. And we do see that switch card drawn here for Brent, as well as a Professor's Research, which is great. Means you don't have to bench that Dedenne GX, and you can go ahead and get both of your Lightning type tag team Pokemon into play.
Yeah, this hand is great, even having the big charm for a little extra HP, depending on where Brent wants to put it. Looks like that Pikachu and Zekrom in a brand new hand of 7.
Lots of options here. 3 quick balls, so can get any of the Pokemon in Brent's deck. Of course, only playing basic Pokemon here. Looks like we'll go ahead and grab that Tapu Koko Prism Star. I wonder if we'll see the early Dance of the Ancients, or maybe you keep this around as a kind of answer to the potential Crushing Hammers that you know your opponent plays.
Yeah, and you're not really threatened by Zach to actually take a knockout on something like that Tapu Koko, so it's pretty safe on the bench there.
Yeah, going ahead and getting it down, make sure that you play around something like a potential Marnie, which we see Zach actually has Marnie and Crushing Hammers in hand, and actually top decks the Pikachu and Zekrom, which is pretty solid, to be honest.
Yeah, didn't really have the best option in that Raichu and Alolan Raichu for this matchup, just because trying to get as many energies in play is the name of the game for both of these decks.
Oh, and it actually looks like Zach doesn't want to bench this Pikachu and Zekrom. I guess just wanting to utilize that Mewtwo and Mew instead. Pikachu Zekrom obviously has much less HP, so when you can utilize Mewtwo and Mew, definitely makes sense. And still does not draw an energy card.
Yeah, this is rough. This means Zach will be forced to actually use the Dene GX or something like Crobat V to utilize the ability and draw more cards to try to find these energies. But so far, Zach has gone through a lot of his deck, and it's not been kind to him.
Yeah, definitely a pretty rough-looking start on Zach's side. Has plenty of options here still. We'll see probably the Tapu Koko grabbed, probably Cherish Ball going for that Mewtwo and Mew, which we know Zach wants to utilize. And the only card you need to find here off of this Dede change for 6 is going to be an energy.
Yeah, well, here we go. A fresh 6 yet again.
Oh my gosh, I thought he was going to whiff again.
That was so close.
Does find the Speed Lightning, which is the best energy to have drawn at this point. You can get the extra card draw in basically for free. You go ahead and throw the Chaotic Swell down. Kind of an inconsequential card in this matchup, but being able to play it down means that you kind of leave your opponent, who also only plays the Chaotic Swell, with a couple of extra dead cards that they can't play in their deck.
Yeah, so I think it's important to note, I think Zach prized 3 basic lightning energy.
Ooh, that's definitely something that could come up, especially, you know, when we always have to consider and keep in mind the potential for Crushing Hammers to come out.
All right, well, pretty good hand here from Brent. Gets a full bench and has the Big Charm for the active and plays the Marnie for a little disruption here. But I don't know. Does find an energy switch, so we'll be able to pull off the attack here.
Yeah, we can go ahead and see a Bolt Storm come out potentially. We could even see an Electrify, just load up some more energies in play, and it looks like that's the strategy Brent wants to go for here. I was kind of curious at first why Brent maybe attached that energy to Raichu and Alolan Raichu, making it so that it wasn't really possible to pull off a full blitz, but it actually makes sense because you don't want to let your tag team be susceptible to a big hit from your opponent. And it looks like that's the strategy Brent's going to try to enact here, just KOing 2 tag team Pokemon and not let just 2 of his tag team Pokemon be KO'd.
Yeah, it's all about that prize math, trying to line up to where you don't have to attack many more times than you need to. And here, Zach finds another energy in that Speed Lightning energy, and finally finds a basic energy to possibly discard for that Tapu Koko on the bench.
We have several options here. We could see the Bolt Storm for a bunch of damage. Also, the Boss's Orders gives you some options as well. I don't know if Zach has a second energy in the discard pile already, but could discard 1 here to get even more in play with Tapu Koko's Dance of the Ancients to hit for just a really high amount of damage with Bolt Storm here.
Well, throughout the game, I believe that was the first basic energy Zach found outside of Electrify. So only 1 in the discard kind of limits the options a little bit here, at least full value.
Yeah, you'd be hitting for 160 damage, which is enough to KO Dedenne GX, but Brent has not played a Dedenne GX down at this point in the game, so that's not an option for a 2-prize turn here for Zach. And that Eldegoss V does have a little bit more HP in that 180. So maybe just a boss trying to hit into a tag team, get that first hit off into Pikachu and Zekrom.
Yeah, well, still has the Quick Ball. So if Zach finds a basic energy off this Crobat V, is able to discard it. And with that, we'll have the extra energy needed.
Yeah, but went for the boss's orders on Pikachu and Zekrom. I think if you were trying to take a, 2-prize KO this turn, you maybe would have gone with the boss's orders on the Eldegoss V, but that definitely is a little risky because then your opponent just has that Boltund ready to go and is easily going to be able to KO your own Boltund V.
All right, well, here we see that Quick Ball discards the Lightning, finds the Pikachu and Zekrom GX, most likely just to get discarded later on.
Yeah, probably just wants to thin as much as possible. This is something you'll always see the best players doing, getting rid of a bunch of extra cards that they know they're not going to need later in the game. So that way, off of your opponent's reset stamps and Marnies, you don't risk drawing into these cards you don't want.
All right, and yet again, Quick Ball is honestly just the best card in every deck to really just make your engine get going. And we see it here just highlighted so well in combination with discarding energies, getting them back with Tapped Cocoa Prism, and then just getting more draw power with Crobat V and Dedenne GX.
And we do see Zach able to draw into the switch card, finds that air balloon, and can now move into this Mewtwo and Mew GX and has a ton of different options for attacks. Gonna go with the Full Blitz here, wants to get a couple of those energies out of the deck and add it to the field. Could have gone with a Tandem Shock and paralyzed Brent's Pikachu and Zekrom, but I think at this point, Zach pretty aware that Brent hasn't played too many switch cards yet.
Yeah, and now action is back onto Brent. Finally has a chance to get some damage on the board against Zach here, but now 150 damage on that active Pikachu and Zekrom GX could be a little risky, so debating on what he has to do. Has a lot of options, does Energy Switch and the boss's orders in particular.
Yeah, and I almost feel like you'd rather have these energy switches later in the game. It's kind of weird. It's one of these cards that's very good early on because it lets you have some options with your Tapu Koko Prism Star, and it's very good late game because you can pull off some of these surprise GX attacks out of nowhere. But in the middle of the game, when you're really wanting to still be using attacks like Full Blitz and like Tandem Shock, it actually gets a little awkward to draw into them.
Yeah, and drawing into it and possibly discarding it with the Professor's Research or something like a Dedenne GX here.
We'll see if Brent wants to move any energies around. Maybe moving one to the Boltund V to try to attack with Bolt Storm here. Could be good to attack with a 2-prizer instead of a 3-prizer.
All right, opts for neither and just discards them, hoping to draw into something nice here. Finds a Crushing Hammer. Does get the tails though, but has a switch and an energy for the turn, so maybe we will see that Boltund start attacking.
Yeah, I guess this works out just as well. Well, actually going to just go with the Full Blitz here, Accelerate. I actually don't know that there's any energies left in the deck here for Brent, so not going to get anything extra into play, and also leaves his own tag team susceptible to being KO'd.
Yeah, drawing those two last basic energies was quite unfortunate there, but does get some damage on Zach's active Pokemon, so at least a little bit of pressure is being applied. But now Zach has a few options of his own, does not, importantly, have a boss's orders in hand.
Has the Marnie, has the Professor's Research, so has some options as far as what supporter to play. Looks like we will just see this Marnie disrupting Brent a little bit and also drawing Zach a new hand, and does find the switch, so we could see a switch into a Tandem Shock. That way your Raichu and Raichu doesn't get KO'd, or we could even just see the Air Balloon or switch retreating into the Boltund V, taking the prize with the 2-prize Pokemon.
All right, well, there it is. Air Balloon going through all the options to try to retreat. And we see that Raichu and Raichu go into the active spot and take the knockout here. Zach is sitting on everything he really needs in his hand, and Brent is kind of on the back foot here.
Yeah, and I like this decision from Zach as well. You know that the Raichu and Raichu is not going to be KO'd by anything your opponent can do, so you get to keep those energies in play. If you attack with Boltund in that spot, it's something that can potentially be one-hit KO'd, and then that's, one of your biggest damage output Pokemon in the deck.
All right, well, here is the first Crushing Hammer heads from Brent's side of things. Gets rid of the energy on the Boltund V on the bench, and another one, so that Boltund is clean of no energies.
Wow, those were two huge flips for Brent, and now leaving Zach with a lot less options. And if Zach wants to attack with Bolton this turn, is going to have to find an energy to attach as well as an energy switch to make that happen.
All right, well, Brent did find an energy switch, a reset stamp off of this Marnie, but now has the option to either attack with his own Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX to paralyze the active, or maybe even get some damage on with that Boltund V with that Big Charm on it.
Plenty of different options here for Brent, and I think just going with the paralysis of Raichu and Alolan Raichu seems pretty good. I mean, Zach does have a pretty low amount of cards in deck. I mean, both of these guys, we look at these numbers here, both guys have 11 cards in deck, 25 cards in the discard pile, almost the same amount of cards in the hand. So really, I mean, it's going to be a close game here. These guys have really managed their resources well, and both been able to set up their game plan as they normally would like to.
All right, well, Zach is now needing to find those switch cards, but they're all on the bottom of the deck and no draw supporter in hand. It means that Tandem Shock worked, and Brent has bought himself another turn and a big knockout, most likely.
Yeah, huge miss here for Zach, and this is honestly the type of thing that can totally swing this game back into Brent's favor. I wonder, maybe we'd have to see Zach hope with the boss's orders to try to stall something up for a turn that maybe can't retreat, can't attack, something like that. Maybe bringing up that Eldegoss V, or you just kind of save the boss maybe for later, and it looks like, yeah, Zach is just going to have to pass here, and that is really unfortunate for Zach.
Yeah, quite heads up play not using the boss's orders, though, just because Brent has 2 switch now in hand. So it would have been for naught. And Brent kind of taking control of this game here thanks to that paralysis. And with a big Professor's Research in hand as well, has plenty of resources left.
Yeah, and also does go ahead and energy switch over to this Boltund V. I wonder if we'll see the Bolt Storm come out here. And it also draws into one of the few remaining energy in deck. So kind of a tough choice here of where you want to attach this.
Yeah, it looks like it's going onto that Raichu and Alolan Raichu. You still have access to Lightning Ride GX, so that's always something to be cognizant of. And has the option for Reset Stamp here, but there's also kind of an option to hold it just in case the Boltund V gets knocked out and your opponent gets down to 1 prize.
Yeah, and I think that maybe be why we see Brent holding onto it. I almost think I would have liked to have seen Brent play the card there because, you know, one of the only ways you could lose this game at this point with so few cards in your deck is by getting reset stamped too low and drawing into some dead cards that don't draw you any extra cards, right? And reset stamp is one of those cards that doesn't see you anymore, as we will see Zach right away playing that reset stamp.
Yeah, well, you have to do it. It's your only option here. And here we see the boss's orders on that Raichu Alolan Raichu GX on the bench. Mewtwo and Mew GX goes to the active spot, and we'll see a Tandem Shock. So anything you can do, I can do better, maybe.
With the Mewtwo and Mew GX at least. And now it's going to be over to Brent. Can Brent find the switch card here? We see Crobat, we see Reset Stamp, we see Air Balloon, lots of options. Professor's Research, and I believe Brent still has 2 switch in the deck, so pretty high odds we'll see Brent find one. Ooh, not here.
Yeah, well, I think that 1 switch is left, so having
one
access
switch
to it with the Professor's Research will lock up the game here, getting the knockout with either the Boltund V or the Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX. And Brent has tied it up now. He is 1 game away from becoming champion. Meanwhile, Zach is 1 game away from resetting the bracket.
Yeah, definitely coming down to the wire here. It's going to be on to a game 3. Zach has already handed Brent his first loss of the tournament, but still looking to win a game 3 here in order to reset the bracket to try to become the Players' Cup 2 champion. We're moving on to a game 3 here, Jeremy. I'm excited to see how things are going to play out.
Yeah, and I believe we should just get down into it. This is gonna be hype. Brent is 1 game away and has known for consistency in the Pokemon TCG, especially online as well. So does he have enough to win 1 more game, or will Zach get that bracket reset? And I believe Zach is going second here.
Yeah, Zach, of course, losing that game does get to choose first or second and does go ahead and opt for going second. Wants to get off that turn 1 Electrify, of course, like we've talked about basically all tournaments long as we've been seeing these Pikachu and Zekrom decks play out. And here on Brent, when you're going first in this matchup, trying to pull off that turn 2 full blitz is what you want to make happen.
Yeah, well, having quite a few resources to do it here, anytime you draw something like Electromagnetic Radar and Quick Ball in the same hand, it's always looking pretty.
Seems good, and we're going to see the Radar right away, discarding the Crushing Hammer and the Energy Switch. I was wondering maybe if we'd see Brent just hold off for a turn, wanting to, save Energy Switch maybe for a Tapu Koko if your opponent does hit a Crushing Hammer hedge, maybe to move that around, and save, of course, also the Crushing Hammer for the next turn. But I think seeing the Electromagnetic Radar played right away, we're going to see Brent be a little aggressive here and play down a Dedenne GX right away here on turn 1.
Yeah, well, when your opponent starts that Vikavolt V, it has 3 retreats, so it's a little bit awkward to get out of the active spot if you don't find a switch early. So maybe just trying to put a lot of pressure on Zach early here could maybe stumble a little bit and get the victory pretty early.
Yeah, the Vikavolt V is very, useful in certain instances in certain matchups for Zach. It's not really something you want to see too much in this mirror match, though, so kind of an unfortunate starter. And of course, like you said, having that 3 retreat makes it a little bit more difficult to get into Boltund V on turn 1.
All right, well, Zach did draw a Professor's Research here as well, so with the Quick Ball in hand and the Professor's Research, we could see something like Boltund V getting the Speed Lightning and hopefully drawing into a switch and maybe some more attackers.
Yeah, definitely needs to find one of the 4 switch that he plays. Also, of course, has the Crushing Hammer in hand and looks like prized a couple of Crushing Hammers here. That could be a big thing. You really want to be playing those Crushing Hammers early on in the game more often than late.
Yeah, also prizing a switch, so it's going to be a little riskier to try to get this Vikavolt V out of the active spot. Gonna have to rely on this Speed Lightning energy and the Professor's Research here.
But hey, I mean, we know Pikachu and Zekrom is one of those decks that can just draw so many cards on turn 1. Oh, a little unfortunate here, actually, to find this Crobat. That's something you'd really like to see later on in this instance whenever you're digging for one specific card.
Yeah, he does hit the heads, though, on the Crushing Hammer, so a little bit of good news for this hand going forward.
Gonna go ahead and just use that Crobat for 2 and does find the switch. That is perfect for Zach. Unfortunately here does draw into a extra energy. I don't think you really want to discard too many more than you have to, but does need to go ahead and play that because you really want to be accelerating energies with Electrify to something that is not just this Vikavolt V.
Yeah, well, Zach did just that in finding the Mewtwo and Mew GX, so able to charge the main attacker up, it seems like, for Zach in most instances, only having 4 basic lightning in the deck left though. So one little thing of caution going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime your opponent is playing Crushing Hammer, your energy counts become even more precious almost than they normally would be because you just know at any point you could lose multiple energies in a single turn.
All right, well, Brent's side, we do see a Quick Ball here. Eyeing down maybe that Tapu Koko V just for that free retreat option or just to kind of discard. It's been one of those cards that has kind of fallen out of favor in a lot of these Pikachu and Zekrom GX decks just for not being that good.
Yeah, it kind of mostly just serves as a pivot, so not necessarily the most important thing to be playing in your list, but it can hit for just a clean 200 damage for 3 energy, which makes it a pretty efficient attacker. Actually, one of the things that can do the most damage in the deck, besides, of course, Bolt Storm from Boltund, and key enough, 200 damage is enough to knock out Boltund V, so it may be something you want to play for those mirror matches in those niche instances specifically.
All right, well, here, Brent finds the switch, plays the Crobat, is looking for energy, and finds 3 of them finally. So here we see an Electrify charging up a Pikachu and Zekrom GX with the Big Charm.
Yeah, gonna go ahead and get those extra energies in play, and Brent has a really solid hand here. Switch in order to move into the Pikachu Zekrom and a boss's orders in order to get a hit onto a tag team. So we'll see what Zach wants to do here. Needs to find the Tapu Koko Prism Star if Zach wants to go with a full blitz on this turn.
Well, does have access to electromagnetic radar, so that guarantees the Dedenne GX for Zach here, and even discarding the Pikachu and Zekrom GX that was needed for Zach to actually attack with something like Full Blitz.
Yeah, this is going to work out great. Go ahead and get that Pokemon in the discard pile. So I think we're probably just going to see Zach want to power up 2 different Mewtwo's, but kind of a awkward hand here. Is able to get out the Tapu Koko Prism Star, but does not draw into a way to get that second Mewtwo out. So, I mean, if you Full Blitz here, the energy's they go on to the Vikavolt, they go on to the Boltund. Neither of those necessarily seem like the best option.
Yeah, well, Vikavolt does have a attack that does 190 damage, but you'll have to discard 2 of them.
Right.
I think for right now, it's just going to be 90 extra damage maybe for that Boltund V.
It does still have the ability to play the Marnie in hand, so we could still see Zach find a way to get out that other Mewtwo and Mew. So the turn is definitely not over. Ooh, that's a big Tails there on the Crushing Hammer. Really would have slowed Brent's next turn down a lot if we could have found a Heads.
All right, well, the Marnie does find a Cherish Ball, so the second Mewtwo and Mew GX is now available for Zach here, and this turn's looking pretty good.
Geez, look at all those lightning energies Zach already has in the discard pile. Definitely could make for some awkward things later on, and also drew into one of those few remaining lightning energies in the deck here off of the Marnie. I think Zach maybe only has, just 1 basic lightning left. So, I mean, sure, you can go for Full Blitz, but you're just getting 1 more energy in play.
Yeah, kind of have the option of, do you attach it to the Boltund V now? Just because you still need to get a Bolt Storm off possibly later in the game.
Yeah, it's going to be a little awkward for Zach to maneuver. Maybe won't even go for the Full Blitz here. Maybe we could see Zach just go aggressive with a Tag Bolt to pick up this 2-prize KO. That's an option. Could also just see the Tandem Shock come out. I mean, and that's one of the things that Mewtwo and Mew does for you, right? Is it lets you just have many different options, many different attacks you could utilize.
Yeah, think of it as the ultimate procrastinator. You don't really know what attack you're going to use until you actually get to the active spot ready to attack.
And I think Zach is still trying to figure it out himself. You're attacking with Mewtwo this turn. It's just kind of determining which attack is the best option. And we will go ahead and see the Full Blitz doing 150. I mean, this does set up some math to where you could KO this Boltund next turn with a Paralyzing Bolt from the Vikavolt V. Maybe limit Brent a little bit from being able to play items in a turn. That could be okay. But then, once again, I just don't feel like Vikavolt overall is the Pokemon you want to be attacking with in this matchup.
Yeah, well, here Brent goes, finally uses Dance of the Ancients, charges up the Pikachu and Zekrom GX on the bench, has access to the newly grabbed Dene GX for new hand, and Brent is looking to claw back here, even has the switch, but is opting to play the Dene GX down and discard it instead.
And that is a lot of lightning energy, maybe all the lightning energy Brent had left as far as being able to accelerate them with the Full Blitz here. So almost kind of works out here. Brent did not want to go with the Full Blitz right away. And I think this actually works out fine. You're kind of okay with your opponent taking this 2-prize KO. You can still force them to KO 2 tag teams potentially. So get use out of this Boltund while you can, and it can still hit for a really solid chunk of damage here into Mewtwo and Mew.
Yeah, the hand is a little awkward going forward, though, just with all those energies and nothing else to really show for it here. But there is the Air Balloon. Now, with that decision, opts for the Full Blitz. And will there be enough energy to actually get just 1? So both players only getting 1 energy off of their respective Full Blitzes.
Yeah, it's still plenty. I mean, that's all you really needed is Brent. You get that 3rd energy on Raichu and Alolan Raichu, so you feel pretty good about that. But Brent really doesn't have much to work with in their hand after that turn finishes. Zach here might be forced into playing his Marnie, though, so Brent will have a refreshed hand.
Yeah, I love attaching the speed lightning energy to the Mewtwo and Mew GX though. You don't get the 2 extra cards, but you still need the energy on that Pokemon, and putting the basic energy on the bottom of the deck guarantees an easy full blitz to get that energy out of the deck.
Definitely can get that extra energy in play, which works out pretty nicely in this instance. But right away, we do see Brent does draw a Crushing Hammer for next turn, maybe ready to deal with wherever this extra energy goes.
Well, I think with this switch here, we might see a Tandem Shock from Zach trying to buy himself another turn here.
Yeah, I mean, you're only going to accelerate 1 energy, so not necessarily the most crucial thing to get in play. Of course, you can just look to attach it in the coming turns. You still want to try to attach an energy every turn, right? So we'll just get the Tandem Shock off, and Brent is going to have to find a switch, which we see right away Brent already has in hand.
Yeah, already having the switch, draws a Crushing Hammer for the turn, and having access to the Speed Lightning Energy, Professor's Research, and Boss's Orders. This hand is amazing.
This hand is great, and honestly, I think Brent is in just a fantastic position in this game as well. And, just being in this game 3 of the first potential set here in Grand Finals, Brent just needs to win this game and will be crowned Players' Cup 2 champion. Has pretty much all the pieces he could ask for at this point.
Does hit a Tails on that Crushing Hammer, though, so not everything is going right for him. Does get the Tandem Shock for the KO, so actions back onto Zach. Was not able to dodge the switch from Brent there, so we'll need to pull something together to try to reset this bracket.
And that energy attachment from Brent last turn onto Pikachu and Zekrom tells me that Brent wants to try to pull off the Tag Bolt for the game on the next turn. And when your opponent is threatening that potential Tag Bolt, that's kind of a scary place to be as Zach. And as of right now, Zach does not have any Pokemon that can attack for damage. Right now, the only attack that Zach has enough energy for is the Electrify. Needs to find either the energy switch or the energy, as we do see that energy switch drawn. So Zach is probably just going to have to be going with a full blitz here or a Tandem Shock of his own in order to try to slow Brent down and hope that you can stick your opponent without a switch card here.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that Tandem Shock, just the same play Brent pulled on Zach a couple turns earlier, and hoping to dodge a switch yet again, but the Marnie disrupting Brent's hand quite a lot. Does not have access to any draw supporters, and his bench is full, so no way to draw extra cards.
Can't draw extra cards. I think already has all those support Pokemon in play. Ooh, except the Eldegoss, that would have worked. And Brent actually does not have any switch left in the deck, it looks like. So Raichu's going down here, and then, I mean, it's really going to be on Zach on this next turn if it's going to be on Brent on Brent's following turn if Brent can pull off the Tag Bolt to win the game.
Yeah, well, Brent had the Tag Bolt before the Marnie, so just proving even more disruption from Zach's side of things. I think the team Yell Grunt, so that is going to be another way to disrupt the Tag Bolt GX from coming yet again.
Yeah, you also could Boss's Orders the Pikachu and Zekrom here. I kind of like that play, though you do open yourself up to being paralyzed potentially, but you could save the switch you have in hand. Honestly, bossing onto the Pikachu Zekrom seems pretty good. You also, like, the Team Yell Grunt, like you said, is going to slow down the potential Tag Bolt option, so lots of different potential paths here for Zach on one of these potential final turns of this game 3.
Yeah, well, if you think about it too, it blanks a draw step, so Brent has that Eldegoss V in hand. That's their only resource for next turn. So does go with your option, though. Boss's Orders, just get rid of the threat completely, and we'll see just possibly a full blitz here, get the energy that's left in the deck, charge up that Boltund V on the bench, and Zach is going to be in a position to take the game possibly next turn.
Yeah, and Zach actually, by doing this, does have the pieces to close the game out next turn. As long as that Eldegoss V is in the deck with Quick Ball, you can get Boss's Orders back, and you have Switch already ready to go in order to, get around the potential paralysis of your opponent's Tandem Shock.
All right, well, there's the full blitz, there's the knockout, and the last energy for Zach. And it's all up to Brent to try to just stay off the KO next turn and not have the bracket be reset, but it's going to be close.
Definitely going to be close. It's going to maybe come down to what Brent draws as the top deck here. And we'll see how Brent can do it. Wants to find a way, I think, to disrupt Zach's pretty sizable hand at this point. Boss's Orders is really not going to be helpful at this point. Of course, Pikachu Zekrom being KO'd means you don't have that Tandem Shock option anymore.
Yeah, well, there's the energy switch to the active. Eldegoss V gets the Marnie, and we're going to have this Marnie be the hope and prayer for Brent here in this match.
And it's going to be, does Zach find a way off of this Marnie to get the boss's orders or not? And Zach draws the boss's orders right away. Oh, but Brent has reset stamp to send those cards back into the deck once again.
Yeah, but the boss's orders now on the bottom of the deck. Zach does find that quick ball. So
is that Eldegoss V? Yeah, if Zach has that in the deck, that could be the game here. It's not in the deck. It's not in the deck. Is it in the prizes? It's one of those last 3 prize cards.
Could possibly be in the discard too, just from earlier discards through Dedenne GX or Electromagnetic Radar. But a switch to the Boltund V does have the option for Dedenne GX. But is there a boss's orders left in the top 6? There is.
There's that boss's orders will bring up that Raichu and Alolan Raichu Tag Team GX and take those final 3 prizes. And Zach has reset the bracket here, is going to be sending Brent to a brand new best of 3. And we're going into a new set here, Jeremy.
Yeah, I have not seen this yet for these player cups. So it is amazing to see. We now have the first bracket reset. Losers are now, or both players are now in the losers bracket, and one last match to determine the winner here.
And now it will come down to this one last best of 3 game. The winner of this best of 3 match will be the champion here for the Pokemon TCG Players Cup 2. Who are you liking after watching that game, Jeremy? Are you favoring Brent to take this down, or are you favoring Zach?
I don't know. Zach was able to hand Brent his first 2 losses of this tournament. It'll have to be all the pressure on Brent. You had the advantage going in. Now you have to get those perfect hands in this final match to be able to overcome those Mewtwo and Mew GXs.
I'm excited to see how it's going to play out. Let's go ahead and get down to the table. Take a look at this first game. Of course, we'll take a quick look at the bracket first, actually, and see that we are moving on to this reset, a brand new 0-0, both players with that L next to their name, signifying that they have lost at this point in the tournament. And now it's going to be this final game, this final best of 3, who will be our Players Cup 2 champion.
Yeah, well, let's get going to the game. The coin flip is going to be huge here for Brent, and loses the coin flip.
All right, Zach's going to have the option here. Let's see if Zach sticks with the same strategy of going second and trying to pull off that Electrify. That is going to be the case.
Yeah, and has a hand of Mewtwo and Mew GX with a bunch of energies and Cherish Ball. Not really much else. Meanwhile, Brent does start that Eldegoss V. Pretty important Pokemon later on in the game, but a kind of useless starter here early on.
Yeah, definitely not what you want to see in the active spot. Does top deck that Speed Lightning energy, though, so that is a good option. And looking over at Zach's hand, things are pretty awkward over there. 4 energy cards in the opening hand.
Yep, 4 energy. Definitely a reactive hand, though. And with the Cherish Ball, can bail himself out of it with a Dedenne GX, but really needing something off the top of the deck, maybe even something like Quick Ball or Electromagnetic Radar.
We'll have to see what the top deck is for Zach. We'll also see Brent here. What does he draw off of the Speed Lightning energy? Both of these players having a Crushing Hammer in their opening hand as well. Definitely a ideal spot to be in.
Yeah, but it's a little awkward going first with it just because you don't want to discard it if you have something like a Dedenne GX. It's very much the better reactive card going second here.
We do see that Quick Ball top decked there for Zach, so honestly one of the most ideal things to draw. Can go get that Boltund V, and that's where we can see the energy attached. We can see the Speed Lightning, so kind of an awkward hand for Zach, just made much better by that top deck.
Yeah, quick ball always makes your hand better. So whenever you draw it, it's always better.
Yeah, absolutely. Only needing to find the switch card here. Already has that Mewtwo and Mew in the active spot, which is what we've seen Zach wanting to accelerate those energies to in these matches so far.
It doesn't look like there's anything too important in the prizes here, at least for this game one. And hopefully hits the heads on the Crushing Hammer to disrupt that Speed Lightning energy on that Bolton V. Kind of put a little more pressure on Brent.
Yeah, and I think Zach is kind of struggling here with what he wants to do as far as attaching Speed Lightning versus going with the Cherish Ball first. And we do see the Speed Lightning comes down initially and finds another Crushing Hammer. So potentially 2 chances here at getting rid of that energy. Oh, just needs 1 chance though, Jeremy.
Well, has an option to discard the extra one now through a Dedenne GX, or possibly just getting everything set up, but still looking for a switch card here or something like an air balloon to get out of the active spot. So I think the Cherish Ball will find a Dedenne GX and this turn will continue.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that's the case. Needs to find the switch, wants to use that Electrify, and gonna go ahead and just discard both of these Lightning-type tag team Pokemon. We've seen Zach utilize the Raichu and a Alolan Raichu sometimes, but I think never actually attacking with a Pikachu and Zekrom in these mirror matches.
Yeah, and a little awkward, but able to continue the dig. Discards the second Pikachu and Zekrom GX, finds the Tapu Koko Prism. Very important card, especially with discarding the extra basic Lightnings from his earlier hand. Finds
also
the second Mewtwo.
Yeah, that second Mewtwo is also a really important draw here. And, I mean, it's going to be 4 cards here on Crobat, and this is exactly what Zach's going to want to see. Needs to continue digging here and needs to find the switch card. Actually, is going to go ahead and accelerate this extra energy to Boltund as well. Oh, actually just going to go ahead and energy switch it to the Mewtwo.
Yeah, get as many cards out of the hand as possible to try to find that switch, and didn't even need to. It was the top card of the deck. Zach hitting everything he needs for this turn 1 and has the Electrify, and there's now 5 energy in play turn 1.
What is this, though? Zach hasn't even played a supporter. The turn is not over. He's going to go ahead and limit Brent to just 4 cards here. Whenever Brent really didn't have an opportunity to play a supporter since he went first. So, I mean, honestly, this turn is what dreams are made of if you're Zach Lesage.
Yeah, you could not have built it better. And now Electrify, there's going to be 2 Mewtwo possibly charged up by the end of next turn. And it is looking scary for Brent's side of things.
What an ideal situation for Zach here, and maybe debating which of these Mewtwo's you want to attach the energy to. You could just go ahead and put them on the Mewtwo that has 4 energy. That way you kind of play around your opponent potentially crushing, hammering some of those away, but also at the same time, I think attaching to the other Mewtwo almost does the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, gonna go ahead and split the energy here. I like this as well. Leaves Zach with plenty of different options.
And dodges the Crushing Hammerheads anyway, but Brent does have the air balloon with the energy, and a professor's research show some semblance of a hand here for Brent, but is really gonna be on the back foot climbing up the mountain that Zach was able to build.
Yeah, is able to get the quick ball, will be able to get Pikachu Zekrom down, so we can see the Electrify on to that Pokemon. Also has another quick ball, so could continue to dig with something like a Dedenne here if he wanted to. Could also get down the Raichu and Alolan Raichu potentially.
All right, well, there Brent finds that tag team Pokemon, the namesake of the deck, uses Electrify and will charge 2 energy to it. But now it's back on Zach. Will Zach have another explosive turn here and possibly put some big damage down on Brent's side of things?
And Zach already has the Crushing Hammer waiting in hand. A couple of heads here, plus, hitting for a full blitz initially would be really strong, and does find the first heads. Let's see if Zach can get more Crushing Hammers and just continue to push the advantage here in this game.
Yeah, only having 1 left, though, so it might be a little tall order here. But if anyone can do it, I think Zach has the potential.
Zach's actually just 10 damage short of being able to knock out the active Boltund with a Bolt Storm. Bolt Storm right now deals exactly 190 damage. Of course, Boltund V has 200 HP, so not quite enough. A little frustrating to be so close, but almost so far away. I wonder, maybe we'll see a switch and just have to settle for a full blitz. We could even see a switch and a tag bolt to pick up the KO. I don't know. There's lots of options here.
Yeah, and Zach is definitely the person to go over all of those and pick the best one here.
I think Zach's maybe a little wary of discarding this energy. You still have plenty left, so I don't think you have to worry about it maybe too much here, but we might just see Zach hang on to it for a turn.
Yeah, and there we see the Bolt Storm. Like you said, 190 damage, really missing electro power right about now.
Absolutely. I mean, Zach's thinking, man, maybe I should have put the Vitality Band in my deck. Where's my Galarian Zigzagoon? There's just so many ways to potentially get that extra 10 damage, and it always feels bad to come up so short, so close, but so far away. Brent here is still kind of left with an awkward hand, though. Would have to utilize that Tapu Koko Dance of the Ancients to get a attack off here.
Yeah, and actually attaching to the Tapu Koko V, and kind of just showing me up a little bit from talking smack about it earlier. It is the one card in here to do 200 damage. So if Energy Switch is found with that Tapu Koko Prism, but oh no, just the Electrify here.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead and spread the energies out. Zach can also get around this, though, by hitting a Crushing Hammer and can remove some of those energies. And we could we could be in a position where this Boltund just kind of gets out of hand and is swinging for way too much damage for Brent to deal with very, very quickly.
Yeah, well, with the energy for the turn, that's 220 damage, and that is a scary dog.
Absolutely, and you got to think about the turns moving forward. If Brent's not able to find some Crushing Hammers to get rid of those energies, which are effectively an extra 30 damage per energy that is powering that Boltund V, if Brent's not able to find those Crushing Hammers, this thing is going to be able to knock out tag teams next turn.
All right, and Zach yet again debating on the switch and possibly using something like the Professor's Research here. Finally brings that Mewtwo and Mewgix to the active spot, and we could see some big, powerful attacks here.
Debating playing the energy switch. I don't think there's anywhere you really want to move the energy to, so I like the decision to just go with the research here, keep the energies where they are at, and Full Blitz can pick up this KO, and Boltund V is safe to continue to just swing for a bunch of damage in the coming turns.
All right. Well, here is the first Full Blitz, I believe, from Zach this game. Gets the knockout here. Last energy from the deck in full control. And Brent is going to have to figure out something to do. And it starts with just getting an attack off.
Yeah, Brent needs to find at least one Crushing Hammer and hit heads. And here is the top draw for the turn. Oh, it's tails, though. That is brutal whiff there for Brent.
Yeah, that is not good. Only having one left in the deck. We'll need to find it right away, possibly with something like that reset stamp to just disrupt Zach a little bit, having pretty much everything in hand.
Yeah, in this position for Brent, you want to hit the Crushing Hammer heads, and you also want to disrupt your opponent and hope that they don't draw an energy for the turn. If you can do that, that'll keep that Boltund V out of range of being able to knock out something like the Pikachu and Zekrom. But actually, Brent's going to go ahead and attach to the Tapu Koko V. We're going to see a Tapu Koko swing in for the first time.
Yeah, like I said, Brent's just trying to show me up. We'll be able to take just big damage knockouts eventually, but the Mewtwo and Mewgix having 270 HP, it's a little awkward here.
And yeah, we'll just see that Thunderous Bolt, 200 damage, and then this Pokemon cannot attack during your next turn. And now over to Zach here. Zach has a few things to work with, has the boss's orders, but I think with the way this game has gone, you're probably just going to be knocking out two prize Pokemon to close out the game and probably just ignore your opponent's tag teams for the rest of it.
Yeah, well, having quite enough energy in play to take the knockout here with Bolt Storm. I think 250 damage, and just one knockout away from taking the game, even having the boss's orders in hand, and the threat of that Tapu Koko V is now gone. Your opponent's probably going to be forced to use Tag Bolt to knock out this Bolton V.
Yeah, Brent has to find a reset stamp this turn. If Brent doesn't find reset stamp, it's pretty easy for Zach to just try to get one of these boss's orders that's either one that's left in the deck or finding it via the Eldegoss V, and just go with the Tag Bolt to KO either the Crobat or Eldegoss or the Dene, or the Bolton on the bench.
There is the reset stamp off that speed lightning energy, so Brent able to cobble together at least a turn here, has the boss's orders for the Mewtwo on the bench, choosing not to knock out the Bolton V, but you have to remember you're getting rid of 3 lightning energy in play.
And we see Brent actually going to go ahead and discard the Raichu and Alolan Raichu. I wonder if maybe Brent is just out of energies in the deck, and that's why we're seeing that. Because I feel like that's what you'd want to power up here to try to get back into the game and knock out that next tag team on your opponent's side.
Yeah, but unfortunately, with that reset stamp, I believe Zach drew the quick ball needed for the Eldegoss V in the deck. So as long as he's able to pull off a Tandem Shock for full value, we'll be able to take a knockout on the Dedenne GX on Brent's bench.
Yeah, plenty of ways to take this KO. It's as long as that Eldegoss V is in the deck. Let's make sure it's there before we speak too soon of things. And top draws the Dene GX as well, so could even continue to dig. But, I mean, Zach, as we've seen in most of these games, has checked his prizes pretty continually. Oh, looks like it must not be there, though.
Oh, has the boss's orders on the top of the deck anyway. Just
there we
knowing
go.
It was there. Now plays it, and Zach is ahead in the reset bracket here. And now one game away from stealing the victory out from Brent's winner's side.
Yeah, really well played on Zach's side of things. Is able to just pick up this Tag Bolt KO, knocking out the Dene GX and moving on to a game 2. I mean, Zach handed Brent his first loss of the entire tournament and now has reset the bracket and finds himself up game 1 here in the grand finals of the bracket reset. Zach Lesage only needs to win one more game to become our Players' Cup 2 champion. Brent Tonisson's gonna need to do a little extra work though, and is gonna make Zach work extra hard to make it happen. Needs to win 2 games here as Brent.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough battle, but Brent has done it all throughout the weekend. So will he be able to pull forward? We'll have to see now going down to game 2.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get down to the game, see how things are going to shape up. We'll probably be seeing Brent going second, I would imagine, and trying to find that Bolton, trying to find the Electrify, and also probably trying to find some Crushing Hammers to get rid of energy on Zach's side after Zach's turn 1.
All right, there is the good lucks exchanged. Zach has a decent hand, but is lacking energy yet again. Meanwhile, Brent does have a mulligan.
Yeah, Zach's hand's a little awkward. I mean, you have draw options, right, with the Dedenne GX. You have quick balls in order to get some Pokemon out, but you have a few draw supporters and also boss's orders that you'd really like to save for later on in the game.
All right, and finally finds the energy off the top of the deck for the turn after that mulligan draw. So now it's starting to look like a hand here for Zach.
Yeah, looking pretty good. Can go ahead and get this Pikachu and Zekrom. Can discard it right away with a quick ball. Find themselves the Mewtwo. Zach also can get himself out the Bolton V this turn and attach the energy to that. And then just keep drawing with the Dedenne GX if he wants to. We could also see Zach hold off on things for a turn, depending on maybe how many supporters that he's prized, depending maybe how many boss's orders are in the prize cards. Those are resources you don't really want to discard if you're not going to have access to them later.
Yeah, and it's looking like here, at least all the items and stuff are pretty much good to go.
Has a couple boss's orders. Yeah, a couple of them there. So maybe we'll feel okay just going ahead and digging with Dedenne this turn. But then again, it's like, what are you really looking for? There's not any specific thing you actually need here. You've got your energy attachment, which is the big thing turn 1.
Yeah, and you're also not worried about something like a Mawile GX to disrupt Dedenne.
Yeah, that would be a little surprising here if Brent threw down the Mawile out of nowhere. And I think with Zach choosing to discard this boss's orders, that will mean we're going to go ahead and see him be aggressive, play down the Dedenne GX, and I think this is totally fine, makes perfect sense, and is actually going to go ahead and attach to the Mewtwo here, maybe trying to get the full blitz off on turn 2. Brent here going to be looking for Crushing Hammers to try to negate that.
And now, yet again, debating playing this Dedenne GX. Is it worth it, or do you just pass here?
It's a tough call. And Zach, you can tell he's not really sure. Is going to go ahead and choose to bench that Dedenne GX. Finds a couple Crushing Hammers, which could be really nice on the next turn after your opponent uses Electrify. So, Zach's sitting in a solid spot for the next turn.
Yeah, and does find a supporter for next turn along with the air balloon. So a nice pivot and pretty good turn 1 here from Zach.
Absolutely. And Brent here has that electromagnetic radar, already has the Dedenne GX in hand, so that means we can just see the Raichu plus the Pikachu and Zekrom here. Both of these players are only playing that one copy of Raichu, and it is a pretty important card in this deck and specifically in this matchup. Luckily enough, though, I don't think we've seen either of them prize it at any point in this Grand Finals.
Yeah, it's a little awkward, if you would, especially just the reliance on Tandem Shock a lot of these decks have going later on into the games. Thankfully, both players having it throughout all these games. And Brent's starting the Bolton V, so no need to really go digging any more for it, and has the Dedenne GX, finds the Marnie here.
Yeah, Brent doesn't know it, but that is a huge Marnie here. Zach's going to get the same amount of cards, but Zach is going to have 2 less Crushing Hammers to work with, which is definitely ideal. And oh, that hand for Zach only has 3 energies and a Stadium. Thankfully, at least one of those energies will be a Speed Lightning to keep trying to draw some cards.
Yeah, you have that redraw, but really just pressure on those 2 cards that you draw, plus the 1 for the turn. Hopefully trying to find something like a Quick Ball or Electromagnetic Radar.
And the hand that Brent drew off his own Marnie is pretty solid, going to have plenty of options moving forward. It's a little awkward to discard too many switch cards early, so that is probably the only main drawback of this hand. But other than that, has an energy attachment in the Speed Lightning and also has Professor's Research.
All right, well, the card off the top of the deck for Zach was not fruitful in Boss's orders. And
Oh,
the Speed
no.
Lightning just gets 2 more energy here. So Zach still has the ability to retreat and electrify for the turn, but it is not looking good going forward.
Yeah, that is an awkward hand right there. We, of course, still get the energy accelerated, but man, it's tough to work with that. And then also, like, you think about your top deck outs / your outs that you could draw off of Speed Lightning next turn. A lot of them are going to involve you having to discard your hand. Things like the Professor's Research, things like the Dedenne with the Dede Change ability. So discarding a lot of energies, like we've talked about, when your opponent plays multiple Crushing Hammers is definitely a little scary.
And wow, the Speed Lightning energy for Brent finds the Boss's Orders and Tapu Koko Prism. So pretty good options here, and we could even see a full blitz this turn.
Yeah, could see that full blitz get some more energies in play. Brent's going to go ahead and eye up the Tapu Koko V once again, trying to just say, you know what, Jeremy, you talk smack about my boy Tapu Koko. I'm going to use him 2 times in a row.
Maybe not. We'll have to see here.
Yeah, maybe it'll get the energies here from full blitz. I mean, Raichu will have 2 on it thanks to this Dance of the Ancients, so... I mean, and that's one of the things I love about this Pikachu Zekrom deck is that you just have so many different Pokemon you could attack with at any given time. You can just work around so many different options, and that's just a very consistent trend from the best players. We'll see them leaving themselves with as many options as possible.
And this is a big play, having the Boss's Orders to bring up the Mewtwo and Mew GX from the bench to the active spot, getting damage on it early so you can be able to knock it out later.
I want to see these 3 energies on Tapu Koko so badly right now. Let's see it. He's debating it. There it goes. Tapu Koko getting ready to move. And like you said, though, it does get the key extra damage on that Mewtwo and Mew. And, I mean, the top deck there for Zach, like I was talking about, is that Professor's Research. So, sure, you get to draw out of this bad hand, but you discard so many energies to do it.
Yeah, now it's going to be even more awkward. The Speed Lightning energy could draw even more energies that you don't want to discard.
Don't speak that into existence, Jeremy. Don't do that to him. Here we go. Okay, thankfully, no more energies drawn. Does get an air balloon, which is a pretty solid option. Now you actually have the ability to go with a boss's orders, maybe, to, hit into maybe your opponent's Raichu, something like that. Just make it so it's harder for them to tandem shock on the next turn, and you get some damage on one of those other tag team Pokemon.
All right, well, gets that air balloon on the active Mewtwo and Mew GX, and opts for possibly this Professor's Research, discarding quite a few energies for Zach.
I think Zach is kind of unsure here if that's the right play. I mean, you need to draw some more cards, but you've already used your Tapu Koko, and it feels really bad to lose all those extra energies.
Well,
and also, I mean, losing that boss is also not great. But yeah, Zach just says, I have to do this here. Oh no, Zach hasn't used his Tapu Koko yet, so that actually works out excellently. Of course, that Tapu Koko in the Lost Zone right there is the one that Brent used earlier on.
All right, finding that Tapu Koko, finds a Crushing Hammer as well. So a little bit more flexibility for Zach here, but still on the back foot, having just the main attacker have 150 damage on it already.
Yeah, plenty of things to choose from here. He's going to go ahead and put down the Tapu Koko. And with the Crushing Hammer here, I mean, I feel like you should play it here, but it's kind of awkward of which... I mean, there's so many Pokemon that have energy on Brent's side. Which one do you even want to discard in this spot?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a decision here. The Pikachu and Zekrom could charge up quite a number of Pokemon, and the Tapu Koko V is one of the main threats to actually knock out that Boltund V on the bench.
And we actually see Zach going with the Lightning Ride GX. Wants to save this tag team from being KO'd right away. Doesn't even get the full effect, but still switches it to the bench. And we see the switch into the Tapu Koko V and a ton of Crushing Hammers. Oh boy, get the coin ready. Let's see. There's a heads.
All right, 1 of 3 is a heads. Does Brent hit the crushing 2 more heads?
Oh,
Another
there's
one.
the second one.
This is not good for Zach here. And
3 for 3
heads in a row for Brent off these Crushing Hammers. Surprise
Oh my gosh.
face indeed. Wow.
Oh no. That is so bad for Zach. Just 3 energies removed from play. I mean, you had 5 in play, so your opponent just got rid of over half of the energy cards you could work with. And we're going to see Boltund V come up and do a ton of damage here with Bolt Storm.
Yeah, I think there's 9 energy in play.
Yeah, that's going to be enough here to pick up this KO. And this is what can happen with the Boltund V if you don't get rid of your opponent's energy via Crushing Hammer. And also if you don't take knockouts quickly enough, your opponent can just get this Boltund swinging for so much damage at these stages of the game.
Yeah, now Zach is left with only energy on that Mewtwo and Mew, and that is just 3 easy prizes for Brent. So really needing to find another attacker here, and with that Boltund V being the only other attacker, Tapu Koko V is just coming up waiting in the bench.
Yeah, and I think at this point Brent has checkmate pretty much. You could take the boss KO, pick up the knockout on that Pikachu Zekrom that's got a bunch of damage on it. Well, I mean, if you do that, then the Tapu Koko V just comes up. I mean, I guess it's not technically checkmate since Zach could just hit some heads on Crushing Hammer. Speaking of which, we see that coin flip go in Zach's favor.
All right, first coin flip, but also needs to find a way to disrupt Brent's hand, already having 2 bosses orders in it. So preferably something like a Marnie to put him on the bottom of the deck, but not having access to that and opting for the bosses orders here instead for the KO.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to attack with the Mewtwo here, right? So since that's the case, boss's orders almost doesn't even matter quite as much since this is the thing that you're worried about. I mean, I think if you're picking up the KO here, it's just going to be finding your Crushing Hammers and trying to make it so that Brent is not able to pick up a knockout this turn.
Yeah, well, if you're attacking with the Mewtwo, there's 3 energy on that Tapu Koko V on the bench already. So with Zach getting rid of the second energy from the Boltund V, still needs to find a lot of help.
Yeah, actually, it looks like there is just 2 energies there. I think Brent energy switched last turn.
Yeah.
So because of that is still kind of in things here. We're actually going to see Zach go ahead and switch into the Bolton, maybe trying to get this Bolt Storm KO, and also finds the reset stamp, so that's going to limit Brent's options quite a bit. Okay, it's not over yet. We also see a Crushing Hammer and another heads.
All right, things are starting to look a little better for Zach here. Did not find the energy, but has the energy switch to at least attack with the Bolton V this turn. And I think we'll be able to take the knockout, dealing 130 damage.
All right, so now Brent needs to find the boss's orders. So that's going to be the key here. Can Brent make that happen? The Bolton already has 2 energies on it still, so that is something that can still pick up this KO. But it's going to be up to the Speed Lightning energy. Right now, the only draw card that's not a supporter in Brent's hand. Top decks the Research. And ooh, does get the quick ball. Is there a boss in the discard pile? There is, but also the Eldegoss is already in the discard pile.
A little unfortunate there for Brent. Still has a Marnie possibly just to try to find some more cards. Needs to find an energy just to take the knockout with the Tapu Koko V.
Yeah, it's going to just have to be short here. We already saw that Speed Lightning come down. Would need to find an energy switch here, and I don't know how many Brent has left. Does still have the ability to dig. Also finds reset stamp, so you give your opponent as few cards as possible here. And we can definitely see the Crobat draw a decent amount of cards if Brent does choose to play out some of these other pieces in hand.
All right, well, retreats to that Bolton V, so does not have the energy switch and just does 160 damage. So now it's back to Zach to see what he can pull off this turn.
Zach needs to take 3 prizes to close this game out. And I mean, what's easier here, to knock out two prize Pokemon or try to get maybe back-to-back boss's orders in order to KO the Raichu and Alolan Raichu on your opponent's bench?
Well, there we see the Quick Ball discarding the Marnie for the Dedenne GX. So Eldegoss V, I think boss's orders is the play here from Zach, and brings up that Raichu and Alolan Raichu. So big 6 cards here from Zach.
Needs to find an energy and a switch card. Does not find that energy, unfortunately. I guess you can still attack with the Bolton, and actually maybe that is even better. I was thinking maybe Zach wanted to go with the Paralysis here, but does hit that last Crushing Hammer and finds a heads as well. That's a huge flip in Zach's favor.
All right, and now here we have the Bolt Storm, possibly the retreat.
It's tough. If you Bolt Storm, you 2-hit KO this thing either way, right? But if you retreat into the Mewtwo, all your opponent needs is the switch. I guess they need a switch and an energy, right? So they do need still quite a bit. Whereas if you attack with the Bolton, all your opponent needs is the boss's orders. So this is actually making... so this makes sense. Zach is forcing Brent to have as many cards as possible here, needing to find the switch card and the energy.
Well, having the switch already, so 1 check mark done.
Yep.
Does Brent find the energy off the top of the deck or draw it with that Crobat V?
Oh, he just top decks it. Who needs to use Crobat V? You just draw the energy you need for turn, and Tapu Koko V coming in and taking the last KO in order to tie things up here in the grand finals bracket reset 1-1. We're going to move to an additional game 3 here, the second game 3 we've seen between these two players. I mean, I don't think we could ask for a better game and a better matchup here for our grand finals.
Yeah, you could not. And Brent just shoving my own words into my mouth. Tapu Koko V is really good against Bolton V and a lot of other cards in the deck. And just having that free retreat pivot and allowing just a big damage later on in the game is great. And hopefully we'll see it again from Brent in this game 3. But now we're just 1 game away from crowning our champion here. And I cannot be more excited.
This is it. This is what these players have worked for. They went through the qualifier round. They went through the region qualifiers. They went through the region finals. They went through the global first round, and then now we are on to the third day of our global finals here, the grand finals, and this is going to be the last game of the tournament here for the TCG side of things. We will be crowning a winner very, very soon. Let's go ahead and get down to the game and see how these opening hands play out and see who is going to find the early advantage here. Once again, Zach Lesage going up against Brent Tonisson in this final game of the Pokemon TCG Players Cup 2.
Yeah, and Zach having the advantage so far of going second this last game 3 and having 3 crushing hammers in hand to boot.
Oh boy. Lots of hammers, and a little awkward on Brent's side. You have both of your Dedenne GX, definitely not the Pokemon you want to be starting with, but you've got a Quick Ball, you've got an Energy, you can still draw some cards. So, I mean, I think Brent will definitely take this. There's definitely worse hands that he could be starting with.
Yeah, meanwhile, Zach did get that Raichu and Alolan Raichu off the top of the deck, so even has Pokemon to accelerate to it if he opts not to play that Professor's Research. Meanwhile, Brent opens yet again with Electromagnetic Radar paired along with Quick Ball.
Is going to be able to get just about all of the Pokemon that he wants in play down into play right away. And I think seeing the 2 research hit the discard pile means we're going to see Brent being aggressive, going to go ahead and play that Dedenne most likely this turn, and does still have that Raichu in deck. Thankfully did not prize that one-of card.
Well, did prize another one-of card that is pretty important in that Tapu Koko Prism.
Yeah, I mean, Tapu Koko V is pretty great, but not as good as Tapu Koko Prism Star. That is a really, really bad 1 card to see in your prizes.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, especially here in game 3. And Brent is going to need to hope on Electrify to really charge up his Pokemon throughout this game.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that Tapu Koko Prism Star, while it is still ultimately a very important card, it's less crucial in the early turns like it used to be for these Pikachu and Zekrom decks, right? Where you had Thunder Mountain before the rotation, you were able to just try to get that turn 1 Full Blitz out of nowhere for just 2 energy, right? So it's a little less important early on and kind of just a great way to recover energies after your opponent plays, speaking of which, a bunch of Crushing Hammers.
All right, well, Zach is 1 for 1 now, so what was needed to get done is get that energy off that Boltund V. Now, does Zach actually opt to play either of the supporters in his hand to get possibly a Mewtwo and Mew down onto the bench?
Yeah, I mean, Professor's Research here draws you more cards, gives you more opportunities to get the Mewtwo, but Marnie saves some of those important resources like that other Crushing Hammer, like that Reset Stamp, and we see Zach does go ahead and choose to play the Marnie and is still able to find the Mewtwo and Mew, and also a way to discard a Pikachu Zekrom.
Yeah, Zach found everything, even has the ability to go get Dedenne GX or Crobat V to continue the turn, but it's up to his leisure, and looking pretty good here in game 3.
Yeah, still has some options here. Could keep going. Could also just be content with this hand for now. I mean, you've got the Electrify, you've got the Mewtwo. It's basically the only things you need. But I think Zach, it looks like he kind of wants to keep digging here.
Yeah, there we see the Quick Ball discarding the ever-important Pikachu and Zekrom GX to enable Mewtwo and Mew GX later on. And we see there, Tapu Koko Prism is not prized for Zach.
Yeah, definitely an important piece to have. We see both of those other Crushing Hammers are still in the deck, so that is a big piece to have around for sure. Has all 4 switch cards, which is great. You know, your opponent could be getting some Tandem Shocks off, definitely, so having those pivot options is very, very good. Oh, it looks like Zach prized quite a few energy here. That always can be a little awkward, especially when your opponent's playing Crushing Hammers.
Yeah, looking like 3 yet again. But it also kind of helps out if you're able to take some early knockouts. You just kind of guarantee you're drawing into some energy later on in the turns.
Yeah, so it looks like we're not going to see a Dedenne GX here. We're just going to see Zach go ahead and go with the Boltund V. Using Electrify, going to go ahead and power up that Mewtwo and Mew, and can still find Dedenne next turn, of course, just using that Radar to discard whatever that top deck is, plus the Eldegoss V already in hand.
All right, well, that energy hit the discard thanks to that Crushing Hammer, and Brent needs to find another one right now.
There it is.
Yep.
It's going to be a big flip.
Lightning.
Yeah, Speed Lightning can draw some extra cards. Also has the Crushing Hammer, of course. Let's see if he can slow things down a bit. It does hit the heads. We over the course of this tournament, we have definitely seen way more heads on Crushing Hammer, I feel like, than we've seen tails.
Yeah, some people say it's 50-50, but we really know. We really know.
We have the stats. We have the numbers. We're going to go ahead and see that Bolton V use Electrify, get the extra energy on to Pikachu and Zekrom. And Zach, here with a pretty solid hand to work with. Quick Ball can get down the second Mewtwo and Mew potentially here. Also, maybe eyeing up discarding this other energy. Could go ahead and use the Tapu Koko here if he finds a way to discard an additional one in order to use that Dance of the Ancients right away to get even more energies in play.
Yeah, let's just keep it going. Why not when you have everything you need in hand? And this is just an insane turn from Zach here.
Yeah, it doesn't choose to get any Pokemon there, which makes sense. You want to save the ability to potentially use the Dene GX here and just draw the boss's orders. So we'll get the first hit on a tag team. This is a huge draw here for Zach and puts him in a really solid spot. Is going to be able to full blitz and set up the Raichu and Alolan Raichu potentially. Doesn't get the second Mewtwo, but it's still fine to get it set up on Raichu.
And this is exactly what Brent did to Zach the previous game, hitting his own Mewtwo and Mew GX with that full blitz. So kind of a little bit of payback, but this is the name of the game. You're not able to take these big one-hit knockouts on these tag teams earlier on in the game. So you need to get the damage on as soon as possible. So it kind of puts a lot of pressure and kind of forces them to either attack with it and get it knocked out, or just not attack with it and it's sitting on the bench with those energies.
And because Brent did start with a Dedenne and also had to use one early on in the game, only has one more support Pokemon left in the deck in this Crobat V.
Yeah, and there we see energy switch just to get that energy switch out of the hand, draw more cards with this Crobat, really needing to find a bunch of cards. Crushing Hammer could be pretty important.
Yeah, Crushing Hammer is definitely a solid piece to find here. Could try to slow down this Mewtwo and Mew in the active spot. And also gets the Quick Ball, so can find that Raichu and Alolan Raichu to accelerate the energies onto. Oh, actually, maybe eyeing up that Tapu Koko.
Listen, it's had its time in the limelight. Brent, come on.
Jeremy just wants him to put it away for now, but nope, it looks like Tapu Koko V is what Brent is leaning towards at this point. And I mean, it seems like a solid option here. You want to, I mean, maybe Brent can play himself into a position where he actually never benches two tag team Pokemon. So that way you can guarantee yourself the ability to reset stamp your opponent down to just one card and try to go from there to close out the game.
Yeah, just kind of forcing Zach to take 7 prizes instead of the 6 normally, and still being quite the good attacker paired along with a switch to reuse it. But here we see it, Big Charm as well, so it could survive a hit from a Tag Bolt. And now here we see the full blitz, Brent getting energy into play, but this Pikachu and Zekrom GX is getting knocked out next turn as long as Zach finds a way to get Tandem Shock active.
Yeah, can either Tandem Shock or could just, continue to attack with this active Mewtwo. But I feel like that's a good point, though. You probably want to try to prevent your opponent from taking this 3 prizes and force them into, finding something like a boss's orders in order to pick up this KO.
Well, here we see Zach draws the Speed Lightning energy, has something like the Team Yell Grunt as well. So again, just the amount of options that Pikachu and Zekrom GX as a deck in general is able to put forth each and every turn really shows why it was both the top decks in Grand Finals.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Team Yell Grunt's actually kind of an interesting option here. You could play it onto that Tapu Koko V and then use this Dedenne to try to find a Crushing Hammer, and then you just have to flip heads on the hammer. But that's the thing, is it becomes kind of a risky play because that Hammerheads, even though it doesn't quite seem like it based on the games we've seen, it's not guaranteed, right? It is a 50-50 chance, so there's always the chance that it wouldn't pay off. So looks like Zach is not going to be going that route.
Yeah, also having the early Crushing Hammers being used turn 1, only having 2 left in the deck. So even with the odds there, still needing to get the heads, opting for the more safer route here. but it's looking like Zach is debating playing this Dedenne GX down, and it's gonna be discarding essentially the rest of the attackers, and Zach would just be forced with the damaged Mewtwo and the Raichu on the bench.
Yeah, I actually wonder, maybe we could even see Zach hard retreat these two energies off of the Mewtwo into the Raichu. That way you could use Tapu Koko Dance of the Ancients to get energies onto the second Mewtwo and Mew tag team, and then you still clear off a bench spot after using Dance of the Ancients in order to use the Dedenne still this turn. But no, it's just going to go ahead and find the Dedenne, and does find a Crushing Hammer as well. Could be a big flip, but oh, it is just going to be tails.
All right, no more heads for Zach here so far. Does find the switch out, so brings up that pivot point in that Boltund V. Still has a decision of what he wants to do. Still has a supporter as well, so does Zach choose to just take the knockout with the active? Do you boss something up? What are you afraid of in this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be the boss's orders picking up the KO on the Mewtwo and Mew. And as we actually just saw there, it looks like Zach was actually checking the game logs, wanted to see if he had any knowledge of Brent's, just wanting to confirm Brent didn't really play mini cards after drawing off of that Crobat on the last turn. And so we will just see Raichu come up, hit the Tandem Shock, pick up this 3-prize KO.
All right, and Zach is now just 3 prizes away from declaring himself champion. Brent needs to put a stop to that, though, and will try to do it with this Tapu Koko V, but 200 damage is not quite enough just yet, and no access to something like Tandem Shock as of now could be a little detrimental going forward in this game.
Yeah, so Brent is going to be in a position where he is 3 attacks away from winning, has to hit for 200 this turn into the Raichu and Alolan Raichu, and then needs to find an attack on each of these tag teams in the subsequent 2 turns here. So still in an okay spot, and you know your opponent is at least 2, maybe 3 turns away from winning since you don't have any tag team Pokemon in play.
All right, well, this Marnie kind of giving the same hand to both players, and not much to speak of there. Retreats and will Bolt Storm, dealing 160 damage and passing it back to Zach.
Yeah, looks like that's going to be the choice here from Brent. Taking his time, checking everything out. Could play this Radar. I don't actually think there's anything in the deck to still get. Maybe there's a Pikachu Zekrom in there still, but I think we've seen him discard all the other Pokemon GX.
Yeah, and Brent checking Zach's discard, eyeing what resources he's used. Important to note, there's the 1 boss's orders in there, so that activates stuff like Quick Ball to get Eldegoss V for that, so you have to be wary of that later on in the game.
Yeah, so I think here Zach could win the game in just 2 turns if Zach is able to get the Tag Bolt KO on this Boltund V, and then is able to find boss's orders onto a Dedenne GX, and then Tandem Shock it for the game. That seems like a good spot. Also, could just attack with this Boltund V even, so just saving all the tag team Pokemon. Zach's in a great spot to close out the grand finals here.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good here. Off that Professor's Research, too, drawing into a Speed Lightning energy, and even having Crushing Hammer. It's just looking really good, and Zach with a ton of energy in play. This Boltund V could get out of hand.
Oh yeah, we've seen it multiple times. We saw it last game actually from Brent with his Boltund hitting for 280 damage. Not going to be quite doing as much here, but still enough to pick up the KO on Boltund V. And by doing this, you actually don't use your GX attack, right? You could have maybe Tag Bolt GX'd here, but now you still have that option as a way to take your last 2 prizes on the following turn. The only piece missing for Zach to close it out is a boss's orders.
All right, we'll have to dodge getting reset stamped to 1 here.
Yep.
But so far, Brent does not have it in hand. We'll need to try to find it, but no access to extra setup Pokemon. Both the Dedenne GX and Crobat V in play already. You see there, both reset stamp in the deck.
And I think that is going to be the big piece here for Brent. Can Brent get one of those 2 reset stamps? And what does Zach find off of the 1 card, but doesn't find it yet? Okay, there we go. Off the Speed Lightning, able to get the reset stamp.
All right, just gave us a little bit of a scare. Not drawing the reset stamp off that professor's research, but finding it off that speed lightning gives just a little bit of hope for Brent here. And the big charm is important to note as well. It does prevent just a quick tag bolt GX to take the knockout.
Oh, and Zach does draw the quick ball. Does Zach still have access to a Dedenne? I think so, as long as it's not that last prize card. So an excellent one card to draw here is Zach.
All right, well, Brent now debating either retreating to the Raichu and a pass of the turn.
Okay, interesting. We'll have to see. I mean, I guess what this does is, I mean, if you know that one of Zach's only ways to draw cards is if there is an open bench spot, you kind of eliminate that option and give yourself a turn. This actually is a great play from Brent, since we see he's got the double boss's orders in hand. We'll be able to knock out the Raichu potentially.
Yeah, just playing to your outs. Brent realizing with the air balloon on the active, Zach is not able to retreat the energy off to use the Tapu Koko.
Yeah.
So pretty heads up play. Boss's orders gets that Raichu and Alolan Raichu with the 4 energy potentially off the board here.
Oh, it's not over yet.
Heads.
That is a big heads. We're going to clear 4 energies off the field here. We're going to get rid of the energy on Mewtwo and Mew. And, I mean, this is going to be very, very close. Brent is still in a great spot to close this one out. Has basically all the pieces to close it out. On the next turn to just knock out that Mewtwo and Mew. Has the boss, has the switch, just about everything you could ask for. Now it's gonna be on to Zach. Zach needs to find an energy to attach, and also needs to find the ability to just use that Dance of the Ancients to get the energy in play, and also get around this Tapu Koko V here.
Yeah, well, there is the Dedenne GX in the deck, and
oh my gosh,
Zach has
This is going to be so close. It's just the one single boss's orders left.
Can Zach do it off these fresh 6 cards, 16 cards left in the deck for him?
Needs to find the energy and needs to find the boss. Does Zach find those pieces? Yes! There it is! That's the game. Zach Lesage is going to use boss's orders, brings up that Raichu and Alolan Raichu, and will take this knockout here with the Bolt Storm. Had plenty of ways to finish the game off there, and Zach Lesage will be crowned our Pokemon Players Cup 2 TCG champion. What an amazing, amazing grand finals.
Yeah, quite back and forth, but you cannot have 2 better players go to game 3, both of the matches. And to pull it out there at the end, Zach having everything he needs to take the last prize, and that is just insane to watch there, Chip.
Incredible play from both players. I mean, we have to give massive props to Brent. I mean, we talked about him a lot this week through the course of this event. An incredible player, extremely accomplished. It always feels unfortunate to come so close and then just lose in the finals. But, you know, Brent is still walking away with a pretty hefty award of getting a paid trip to a future international championship, which is pretty amazing. But he's not walking away with the title. That goes to our winner, Zach Lesage.
Yeah, what a great way to cap off the weekend. And Pikachu and Zekrom GX is the top dog for now, but at least for that grand finals, it was Mewtwo and Mew GX taking the spot for right now, just proving its versatility and usefulness in Zach's deck, and the reason why he included 2 copies.
Well, we have a winner's interview lined up with our champion, Zach Lesage. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing how he is feeling about this tournament, how he's feeling about coming away as the champion. So let's go ahead and hear what Zach's thoughts are. I'm here with our winner of the Pokemon TCG Players Cup 2, Zach Lesage. Zach, how's it going, man? How are you feeling after that amazing finals match?
I'm doing really well. Obviously, as you would imagine, it's one of those things where the Players Cup has been such a kind of long events in terms of the way to get here, qualifying and all that. And I never would have thought, especially after my Players Cup 1 performance, that I would have made it all the way out here. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that I would have been playing Pokemon after things kind of got shut down. So it's kind of a crazy feeling to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it was a great finals game for sure. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about the deck that you chose for the tournament? I know in the past you've played a lot of welder decks, so I think maybe people would have expected to see you playing something like Baby Blacephalon for this event, but you decided to go with Pikachu and Zekrom. You want to talk about that decision and kind of how you built your deck for this event?
So basically before the playoffs, for the Players' Cup qualifiers, the one where I originally had to qualify to make to the global finals, I really wanted to play Pikarom. My testing group, we all decided that we were going to be playing Scorch. Last second, I was like, okay, you know what, you got me with a fire deck. But part of me, even though I was successful going 7-0 to qualify to make it to the global finals, it's one of those things where I didn't necessarily like Scorch that much. It's weird, especially with all my experience playing fire type decks. I always wanted to play Pikarom, so I revisited it, especially after seeing some of the successful results it's had online. So tuned up the list there, played in a few online events, practiced, and then I came to kind of a hybrid Pikarom list that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, we saw that tech of the Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GXB very useful for you throughout the tournament. You want to talk about that inclusion, what led to you including that card, and how what matchups it was specifically for?
So basically, the way that I looked at the card, especially with the help from my testing group, all around, we decided that Mewtwo and Mew is one of those cards that in Pikarom, it has more HP than Pikachu and Zekrom GX, it has more HP than Raichu, Alolan Raichu GX, which means that it's kind of like a searchable big charm with either Cherish Ball or Quick Ball, giving it an HP boost and giving you more options to attack, because Pikachu and Zekrom GX only carries 2 attacks. I mean, they're both fantastic attacks, arguably one of the best cards of all time. Tag teams are extremely powerful in our game right now, but it only has the full Blitz attack, and it only has Tag Bolt GX. With the Mewtwo and Mew GX, it has the ability Perfection, which allows you to copy all the attacks. So if I have a Pikachu and Zekrom GX in play or in my discard pile, Raichu, Alolan Raichu GX in play in my discard pile, even to Dene GX, I have access to up to 6 attacks. So I just felt like my options were bountiful, and it allowed me to really kind of persevere over most of my opponents.
For sure. We've talked about a lot over this tournament how you see the best players just leaving themselves with plenty of options, and we saw that time and time again in the way you played throughout the course of this tournament. Do you want to talk a little bit about the overall strategy of your deck and how you were able to play that out throughout this tournament?
Sure. I feel like the format's kind of escalated to being extremely quick right now, which allows Crushing Hammer to be one of the most oppressive cards in the formats. That being said, playing a deck that accelerates energies extremely quickly with Bolton's Electrify attack, on top of playing that oppressive card, Crushing Hammer, allows you to kind of jump leaps and bounds in front of your opponent. So my strategy in most games was to get an Electrify off as soon as possible, and then really kind of determine what I need to do in the matchup. When you're playing against Arceus, Dialga, Palkia GX, it's one of those things where you could lose the game in as quick as 3-4 turns. So I need to determine if I'm using full Blitz, if I can afford to use full Blitz, if Crushing Hammer is enough to stop them, or to use Tandem Shock with Marnie or Reset Stamp to try to cross my fingers and put myself in a position where if they miss, how do I react to that situation? So I felt like my deck allowed me a lot of wiggle room to react to certain situations, which I feel having more options is usually better, especially if you know how to navigate those options.
Absolutely. Do you feel like that strategy ever really had to change during that finals match?
There were so many games throughout things, so I'm just trying to remember exactly what we played in the finals match here.
Sure.
There was times where Brent would get a bunch of Crushing Hammer's heads, and I was like, okay, everything needs to switch it up. I've lost all my energies in play. I can't attack with the Pokemon I want to attack with anymore. And there was also times where I was like, wow, I'm running really hot with these Crushing Hammer heads. I can do a lot of things. I could take it a little bit easier. So a lot of my day was like, did I get Crushing Hammer heads? Did my opponent get Crushing Hammer heads? That a lot of that really determined what I was doing. So in order of sequencing, usually it's better to check through your deck. Crushing Hammer felt a lot more important in a lot of cases. So I just felt, yeah, there's plenty of times I had to navigate differently.
Did you feel like at any point in this tournament you faced off against any players you would consider a rival of yours, maybe someone you've had good games against in the past where you had a chance to play them once again in this tournament, in this online event?
Obviously, all of my opponents are very, very strong opponents. I mean, to make it to this kind of level, qualifying, making it through the regional qualifiers, etc., etc., everyone's had a similarly long as mine path to go. Which is insane and grueling in the best of ways. I mean, we all love playing Pokemon, but it was a difficult tournament to navigate. One particular opponent probably stuck out the most, and I'd say that's probably Diego Casarega, the 2017 world champion. Earlier this year, we had a match at San Diego Regionals, or I guess late last year, almost a year to date now. I feel like I misplayed. I was having a bit of a rough mental day that day. I misplayed into a tie. So it was pretty fulfilling to getting to play against them again when I'm in a little bit of a better mental space and got a little bit more sleep. So that was definitely a highlight of the tournament for me. They're a great opponent, a great player at the game, and I was just really excited to see them at this level of play.
Yeah, that's amazing. And do you have anything that you would say was a big highlight for you in that last finals match?
I mean, I think Brent, I think the world of Brent as a player. I think Brent is an amazing player. Coming from Canada and Brent coming from Australia, quite notably, I know that a lot of players who are not from the United States do not get the recognition that they deserve. But Pokemon as it grows as a global game, I knew about Brent as a player, and Brent's amazing. So just being able to play against Brent and overcome Brent not once but twice in the finals, to me is I'm still shook from it. It's shocking to me, because going into that finals match, I was like, there's no way that I can get through almost a 60 card mirror, because I think looking at the deck list, Brent and I had maybe 5 cards difference. They played Big Charm, I played Mewtwo. To me it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, very similar lists indeed. And you're obviously a player who's had a lot of success. Whenever tournaments and stuff were happening you've won regional championships, multiple top 8 finishes at international championships. How does this accomplishment and this finish stack up for you compared to those things?
It's kind of weird. It's hard to place an event like this because there's only been 2 Players' Cup, the Players' Cup 1 and this Player Cup 2. This is the only time I've ever made day 4 of an event, which is kind of crazy to me, where it's just like making it through these rounds, players getting knocked out, because obviously at a regional championships you make day 1, you make it to day 2, and then day 2 concludes internationals at day 3. I think Worlds is also day 3. So having a 4-day event of playing 4 days over multiple weekends kind of created this kind of new sense of accomplishment to me, I guess, if that's the best way to put it. It's one of those things where the event on a global scale it's much more inviting to players online, which means that there's more players who might not have ever traveled to a regional, or even to an international. So if we were to compare this to internationals or worlds, it's a little bit more open, which makes the variance level a little bit more high.
Certainly. And obviously you were coming out of the losers bracket, winning in the losers finals, and had to win 2 times through the full bracket reset against Brent. Do you want to talk about, going through that, thinking about having to play out that grand finals match effectively 2 times?
So for me, it's one of those things where I took each game one by one, and that was my entire strategy throughout the entire tournament. Because if you looked at this event from the beginning, I think I went 15-1 or 14-1, something like that. So if I thought about how many games I'd actually have to win without losing, it's kind of at a ridiculous number. And statistically, I should probably lose this tournament 9.9 times out of 10. So when I finally got to a level of getting past ADP-zation in the first round, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm in the losers finals now. I got past Hugo, got there, and then I'm like, okay, let's just take it one game at a time. If I lose, it was all against me. It felt like it was all against me. Brent's had a fantastic run, great competitor, it happens. But just taking each game one by one, and I think dealing on that matters the most, the game at hand, I felt like that was a solid strategy going into the finals.
And all of those things combined lead to you becoming the Players' Cup 2 champion. Zach, congratulations, an amazing accomplishment. And also, of course, not only getting this title, but getting yourself a trip to a future international championships as well, which I'm sure is very exciting for you. I know you love competing in those events. So congratulations once again, Zach.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chip. I totally appreciate it. I mean, I don't think it's surreal to be here. I wouldn't have been here without all of the support from my friends and family. Not being able to talk to them about this throughout the way has been a little bit difficult. But I've been playing in other online events, and they totally understand. They've been helpful in those events as well. So a lot of it's been very helpful towards this event.
And it was great to hear from Zach there. Just amazing player and capping off an amazing weekend of Pokemon action. Finally being able to take the big win here.
And with all that being said, we are done on the TCG side of things. Jeremy, it's been a pleasure casting with you. What an amazing, amazing tournament. Through the region finals, through the global finals, we saw so much incredible Pokemon over the course of this tournament.
Yeah, definitely a stark contrast from the first Players' Cup to the region finals, where Zacian V was dominant for pretty much all of the finalist place. And coming into this global finals, it was the top deck in the format.